Rajan Mehta was a man who had carved his empire from nothing. He had known the sting of poverty, the weight of struggle, and the satisfaction that came from building something with bare hands. His journey from a tea stall helper to the owner of a global luxury hotel chain had been long and brutal, but it shaped him into the grounded, disciplined man he was. Success hadn't spoiled him, it had sharpened his values. But his greatest concern wasn't his business empire, it was his son, Aryan Mehta, had grown up in a world very different from his father's. He was raised in luxury, shielded from hardship, pampered by staff, and praised for minor achievements. While Rajan still wore the same modest wristwatch he'd had for decades, Aryan bragged about collecting limited edition Swiss watches before he was even 21. While Rajan believed in respect through work, Aryan often judged people by their clothes or accents. Rajan watched silently as his son grew more entitled, more disconnected from the values that had built their empire. And when Aryan finally graduated with a business degree and returned home, demanding a senior executive role in the company, Rajan saw a dangerous mirror image of everything he never wanted in a successor. That night, Rajan didn't sleep. He paced his study, flipping through old photos, him working as a bellboy, as a cleaner, as a receptionist. Every role had taught him something vital. He knew what he had to do. The next morning, Rajan called Aryan to his study. "You want to lead this company?" he asked. Aryan nodded, confident. "Then you need to understand it, not from boardrooms. From the ground." He handed Aryan a sealed envelope. Inside was a fake ID, a staff contract, and a trainee position at one of their flagship hotels under a different name. Aryan looked confused. "You're sending me there as what? A cleaner?" "Exactly that," Rajan replied. "You'll live in the staff quarters, wear their uniforms. Earn their respect, not demand it, and no one will know you're my son?" Aryan protested at first, calling it a test, a punishment. But Rajan remained firm. "One day, people will look to you for leadership, but first, you need to understand the people you'll lead." Reluctantly, Aryan agreed. He packed lightly, left behind his branded clothes and sports car, and arrived at the hotel using public transport, an experience that already felt foreign to him. The staff welcomed him as they would any other new recruit, with distant politeness and minimal interest. He was assigned housekeeping duties and worked under a strict supervisor who didn't hesitate to criticize him when he made mistakes. At first, Aryan found the job humiliating. Cleaning bathrooms, changing bed sheets, scrubbing floors, these were tasks he never imagined doing, let alone being judged for. His back ached, his hands grew calloused, and the staff meals were nothing like the gourmet spreads he was used to. But something began to shift. Over time, Aryan started observing things he never noticed before. The way the bellboys managed dozens of requests at once with a smile. The way the kitchen staff moved with precision and speed. The way the cleaning crew took pride in spotless presentation, despite getting little recognition. These weren't just low-level workers, they were the heartbeat of the hotel. Without them, nothing functioned. And yet, most of them were invisible to the guests. Aryan began to talk to them, listen to their stories, laugh with them during breaks. Slowly, he began to understand the dignity behind every role, and the quiet pride each employee carried despite the long hours and modest pay. For the first time in his life, Aryan felt humbled, not by being shouted at or scolded, but by witnessing people who gave their best every single day without applause. He stopped complaining, started volunteering for extra shifts, and even helped cover for a sick coworker without being asked. The staff noticed the change. They didn't know he was the boss's son, but they began to respect him, not because of who he was, but because of how he worked. Meanwhile, Rajan quietly received reports from the hotel manager, not about Aryan's identity, but about his work ethic. For weeks, Rajan remained silent, allowing the experience to shape his son in its own quiet way. The disguise wasn't meant to deceive. It was meant to strip away privilege and give Aryan the chance to rebuild his identity from the ground up. Rajan knew that power inherited too easily becomes toxic. But power earned after hardship becomes something else entirely, responsibility, asterisk. This phase of the story was not about punishment. It was about transformation. Ariane was beginning to see the world not through the lens of entitlement, but through the eyes of those who truly held it together. And that shift would soon prepare him for a defining moment neither he nor his father expected. Asterisk. One afternoon, as the hotel bustled with its usual rhythm of guests checking in and out, staff rushing to and fro, and the faint sound of classical music humming through the grand lobby, a moment unfolded that would leave an indelible mark on everyone who witnessed it. Ariane, still disguised as a regular housekeeping staff member, was on his way to deliver fresh towels to a suite. He was dressed in a neatly pressed uniform, his name tag reading Arjun, the alias he had used since starting at the hotel. He walked confidently but humbly, no longer resenting the tasks he had once viewed as beneath him. That morning he had even stepped in to help a colleague cover an early shift without being asked. Slowly but surely he had earned the quiet respect of a few team members. However, not everyone saw his efforts. Asterisk among the hotel's management was a senior supervisor named Mr. Bansal, known for his cold demeanor and sharp tongue. Bansal had a reputation for being harsh with junior staff. He was efficient, yes, but also arrogant and dismissive, treating those beneath him as tools rather than people. To him, Arjun was just another faceless, low-rank worker. He had no idea that the young man he constantly overlooked, sometimes even insulted, was actually the heir to the very hotel he worked for. Asterisk that day. As Ariane carried a guest suitcase to their suite, the bag accidentally slipped from his grip near the elevator. The guest gasped. It wasn't a major mistake, but the noise and attention it drew were enough to spark Bansal's fury. From across the lobby, he stormed toward Ariane, his face tight with anger. Without hesitation, in full view of guests, staff, and security, he began berating Ariane. Asterisk, "You clumsy fool," Bansal shouted. "Do you even know what you're doing here? This is a 5-star hotel, not a roadside motel. Pick up that bag and get out of my sight." Asterisk Ariane tried to apologize, but Bansal wasn't listening. His voice grew louder. "I've had enough of you. You've been stumbling around this place like a lost dog. You're an embarrassment. You're done here. You're fired." Asterisk, the words cut through the lobby like a blade. A hush fell over the crowd. Staff members froze mid-task. Guests watched in disbelief. Ariane stood still, shocked, not by the firing, but by the sheer public humiliation. He hadn't expected to be praised, but the disrespect, after weeks of trying his best, hit deeper than he imagined. Asterisk at that precise moment, unknown to Bansal or Ariane, Rajan Mehta had entered the hotel through a side entrance. He had planned a quiet, unscheduled visit to observe operations and perhaps check on Ariane without being seen. But the moment he stepped into the lobby, he saw the commotion. And there, right in the center of it all, stood his son, being shouted at like a criminal. While the man doing the shouting was one of his own senior staff, Asterisk Rajan's steps were slow and deliberate. The staff parted to make way. His presence demanded silence. Bansal, still fuming, didn't notice him until it was too late. Rajan's voice, calm yet sharp, rang out through the lobby. Asterisk, "Mr. Bansal," he said, his eyes fixed on him. "I'd like to know what just happened here." Asterisk Bansal turned, startled, then immediately stiffened. "Sir, I didn't know you were visiting." "The staff member, he's careless, incompetent, and I finally let him go. He dropped a guest's bag." Asterisk, "You mean my son dropped a bag?" Rajan interrupted. Asterisk, the silence became heavier. Bansal blinked, confused, then horrified. "Your son?" Asterisk, "Yes, my son. Ariane Mehta, working under the name Arjun. He's been training here for weeks, doing exactly what I asked him to do, learning, growing, and doing a job you clearly don't respect." Asterisk Bansal looked pale. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came. Asterisk Rajan turned to Ariane and looked at him with quiet pride. Then he faced the stunned lobby staff. "Let me be very clear," he said. "No employee at any level should ever be treated like that. Whether you clean rooms or manage accounts, dignity is not optional. Asterisk, he looked back at Bensal. You, on the other hand, have forgotten what this company stands for: respect, humility, and leadership through service. You're relieved of your position, effective immediately. Asterisk, there were gasps. Bensal looked like a man who had aged 10 years in seconds. Security stepped forward quietly. Without another word, he turned and walked out of the lobby. Defeated, Asterisk Arian didn't move. He was still processing what had just happened. His father had seen everything. Defended him, yes, but more importantly, stood up for the values he had been trying to teach all along. It wasn't about favoritism. It was about fairness. About the message that every human being, regardless of position, deserves to be treated with basic respect. Asterisk, what shocked the crowd wasn't just that a powerful man had fired one of his own executives. It was that he had done so in defense of someone everyone thought had no power at all. Asterisk.